Interesting agenda.
Brian Terry is stuck in traffic. He's presenting theirs.
Oh, really?
First two.
That's right. He was on the recall.
Bat things around and then come.
See, it said he was going to run for 9:05.
Well, you want to stall for a few more minutes?
And I said there are a few things we're going to do up front before the presentation. So.
He's got the. Yeah, two.
He's got 1 and 2 and 4.
Oh, and 4.
We could
Okay.
move 3 up, I guess. Instead of 3.
If 3 is ready.
Okay. Let's get started with the roll call. Okay, let's get started with roll call.
Good morning. Sherry Pavlik,
Here.
Christopher Kimmer,
Here.
Gloria Mendoza, Sam Caliendo,
Here.
Lori Vinacore,
Here.
Allison Thomas,
Here.
Angela Jones-Vaughn,
Here.
Susan Kennedy, James Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
One more part is coming.
Okay. Stand for the invocation.
Lord, we ask your guidance today as we consider matters that will affect the safety and welfare of many people in our country. Help us to listen with open minds to matters that are important before us and to act on those matters that will benefit those who reside in our area. Keep our minds open and alert, our hearts compassionate, and our commitments charitable. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Zoning Commission of Palm Beach County has convened at 9 a.m. in the Vista Center Ken Rogers Hearing Room, 2300 North Jog Road, West Palm Beach, Florida, to consider proposed applications and staff recommendations pursuant to and other actions the Palm Beach County Unified Land Development Code. The Commission takes final action regarding Class B conditional uses, subdivision variances, and Type 2 variances, and issues advisory recommendations on other requests. The Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County will conduct a public hearing at 301 North Olive Avenue, West Palm Beach, Florida, in the Jane M. Thompson Memorial Chambers, 6th floor, at 9 a.m. on applications not subject to Zoning Commission final action. Zoning hearings are quasi-judicial in nature and must be conducted to afford all parties due process. The Board of County Commissioners has adopted procedures for conduct of quasi-judicial hearings to govern the conduct of such proceedings. The procedures include the following. Any communication with commissioners which occurs outside the public hearing must be fully disclosed at the hearing. Applicants and persons attending the hearing may question commissioners regarding their disclosures. Such questions shall be limited solely to the disclosures made at the hearing or the written communications made a part of the record at the hearing. Any person representing a group or organization must provide documentation that the person representing the group has the actual authority to do so regarding the matter before the commission. Any person who wishes to speak at the hearing will be sworn in and may be subject to cross-examination. The applicant and county staff may cross-examine witnesses. Any other persons attending the hearing may submit cross-examination questions, including follow-up questions, to the chair who will conduct the examination. The scope of cross-examination is limited to the facts alleged by the witness in relation to the application. Public comment is encouraged, and all relevant information should be presented to the commission in order that a fair and appropriate decision can be made. We have proof of
Motion to
publication.
receive and file.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Swearing in?
All those wishing to testify or speak on today's quasi-judicial items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Approval of minutes?
I'll motion
To
to
approve the February minutes.
second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Any requests to pull items from consent? Sorry. Any adds, deletes?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
We have a few add delete items. Item number 2, DOAW 2025-967, Seminole Orange Plaza, modification to the staff report to include correspondence. And the same on item number 3, Z 2025-1889, Preston Residence, modifying the staff report to include correspondence.
I'll motion to adopt the agenda with the amendments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Any conflicts or recusals for today?
None.
None.
None. None.
I do on item 4 on the regular agenda.
Recusal. conflict.
Yeah,
Okay.
recusal.
I have none.
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 Okay, we're,
If we could just, for the recusal, just very briefly,
Why?
yeah.
Yes. So it's for Crossbridge Church, and the firm I am employed by, Leeway Daily, has been their architect, so it's a conflict of interest.
okay, now we're on to the election of chair and vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Chris as vice chairman and Sherry as chairman for the new term.
We can, I think it'd be better to do them separately, just one at a time.
Okay.
Maybe start with the chair, and actually, it's probably better if the secretary, somebody asks for the vote. Or for nominations.
Okay.
Nominations on the chair, please.
Okay. Sherry for chair.
I'll second that.
Anybody else? No? Okay. So you call a vote?
And
Aye.
let's have a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on.
Calling nominations for vice chair.
Chris, nominated for vice chair.
I'll second the nomination.
Any other nominations? Okay. Call the
Seeing none,
vote.
let's have a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. And we'll switch chairs
We
here.
have to switch chairs now. Give us a minute while we move.
Leave.
Oh, it was nice having you. You'll have to come back.
Neighbors.
Good to see you.
I always wanted to come down here and chat with you too.
You don't need this.
Right. Thank you.
Easy come, easy go, Wendy.
Yeah, okay, okay, very good, thank you.
Yep. Okay. So are we going on to consent agenda now? Is that the next item?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And we already asked for disclosures. So do I have, yes, sorry.
Did we?
I have none.
Okay.
Kennedy.
Thank you.
I like that.
Okay. On
Did we do disclosures or only
No.
conflicts?
Oh,
and
I'm
refusals?
sorry. We only did conflicts. We did not do disclosures. You're correct. All right. Do I have any disclosures on consent agenda item?
Have none.
Jim?
Yes, I had a conversation with Brian. I did have a conversation on item 1 with Brian Terry.
None. I spoke with Brian Terry on item 1.
Bear with me a second. No, no disclosures.
I spoke to Brian Terry on item 1.
None.
None.
None. Okay. All right.
Maybe I did speak to Brian. Well, I may have to change that. Maybe I did speak to Brian Terry. The aging process has taken over my brain.
All right. Do I have any comments or questions or a motion on consent agenda 1?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda. Item
Second.
1.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to regular agenda. So do we have any disclosures on item number 2?
Have none. I did have a conversation with Brian Terry on item 2.
None. I spoke with Brian Terry.
Oh. Didn't we approve?
Item number 2, I spoke with Brian Seymour.
Okay. I have none.
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 Just to clarify, Sam just asked me, we did approve consent agenda item 1. I don't need to approve the agenda beyond that, right? We approved consent agenda item 1. We're good, right?
You approved the agenda as amended, Vinacore and Pavlik, 8-0. And then we moved on to consent, in which Lori and Sam voted to approve the consent, which happens to just be one item. And now we're on regular.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to clarify. Thanks for asking. Okay. All right. So we'd like to hear from the applicant on item 2 on the agenda.
Yes, and item 2, we do have cards, so after presentations, we'll have comments from the public.
Madam Chair, for the record, Brian Seymour, on behalf of the applicant. I do not have the presentation. I'm not giving a presentation, but Mr. Terry was stuck in traffic, so he just walked in. Can we get 2 minutes to upload the presentation before we begin?
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, I'll let him take a quick breather, but not too much.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You got to get sworn in.
Turnpike was, yeah, I would need to
Yeah,
be
you
sworn
can
in.
swear about the turnpike. Scott, you need to be sworn.
Ryan, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, things will get better. Good morning, everybody, and appreciate the opportunity here. You have had the benefit of learning a little bit about the freestanding emergency departments over the course of the past few months, because there has been a text amendment that was processing through to accommodate and really create definition for what a freestanding emergency department FSED would be. It was originally that was processed with this application that was kind of working parallel to it for a development called Seminole and Orange MUPD, which is located on the south corner of Seminole Pratt Whitney Road and Orange Boulevard. This is a development that was originally approved back in 2007. It has now taken almost 20 years to fully develop. This is the remaining piece, the remaining vacant parcel in red that you see on the screen here. So what we are asking for this morning is to do a approximately 11,000 square foot FSED on the property, and then allow for 24-hour operation. That is the request that is a type 2 waiver as part of this application, and probably going to be the most, the point of discussion that we talk about the most. An FSCD is considered a medical office. It's defined under medical. A medical office as standalone would be a permitted use here. And then the FSCD comes with a couple of other little criteria that we're abiding by. Going back in time just a bit, back in 2007, and this property was overall approved for 50,000 square feet of commercial uses, medical uses. There's a variety of things on the property. A Walgreens, there's a little strip center that's got a couple of retail shops, a Papa John's in it. There's a McDonald's. There's an AutoZone, and then there's a dentist office that is the furthest to the east. So this piece will be going right adjacent to it. So 50,000 square feet was what originally was the intended development for the entire piece. Currently built 33,988. As you can see, there's an additional 3,000 that's approved, and then but with the proposal, we're going to be up to about 45,000. So we're still coming in under the 50,000 total that was anticipated to be developed on this property. But with the 11,000 square feet we're requesting for this piece. I'm showing you some photos of the, this is of the Walgreens and then of the McDonald's. There's a series of uses that all occur, and these are some photos that I took that were on the south side of the property. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about compatibility. We do have some residential neighbors that are across 69th Street to our south. So I just kind of wanted to show some of the context of what is out there today. The way the whole shopping center is oriented, everything, the front doors are all oriented to the north on Orange. The rears of all these buildings are facing south towards the residential, which include the drive-through for the gas station, the drive-through for the pharmacy on Walgreens, all the dumpsters, all of those, that side of the development is all facing the south side. Here's a couple of views that you see of the vacant parcel of land. Again, this was all stubbed, intended to be developed. The roadways are stubbed to it. The utilities are stubbed to it. It's all waiting for the development to occur. I don't want to get deep into this, and certainly we can talk about it more if you need more explanation of what the intention of an FSED is. But again, it's really to provide services and locations that are what's called remote from the hospital. It's an opportunity for those hospitals to provide emergency services in locations where they can get to the folk, or the people can get to it faster. Also, they are licensed and affiliated with the hospital. However, they're not located on the premise, obviously, of the hospital. They do have to operate 24/7. That is a requirement of them, and subsequently why we have the Type 2 waiver request in front of you. And then they're fully staffed physicians, just like the emergency department would be in a hospital. Certainly the difference is there is no overnight stay. If you were to be in this emergency department and you needed to go, you needed to go to another department, you needed to have an extended hospital stay, you would then be transported to the actual hospital. Again, that's the inpatient and no overnight stay. So here's our plan. You can see here, again, the way the development site is just a continuation of the parking lot that goes around. Next to the dentist office, and if this lets me point, it won't. There is a plaza space that's in between that also comes from the original development approvals. They got amended at one point in time through the process, but there's always been a requirement for public community space to be a part of this overall development. It is now going to be developed with the development of this last parcel of land. It'll be in between the dentist office and this new building. Zooming into it, the access is going to be off of Orange Boulevard. Always intended to be there as well. Actually, that driveway apron is stubbed in. It's just been waiting for this parcel to develop. Pretty straightforward landscape buffering around the perimeter. You have a couple of drop-off locations and a front door that is facing Orange Boulevard. We have been reaching out to the community for quite a long time. I'm sure, and I walked in so quickly I didn't get a chance to see who all is here, but we started meeting with Indian Trail Improvement District. We met with them we went to their board meeting. We presented the project at that point in time on December 10th. We then met with Acreage Landowners Association, the ALA, on December 16th, and then we sent out certified letters and tried to contact all the neighbors that are most adjacent to this property. We didn't have a great turnout. We had some of those certified letters get returned. We had one of the residents, who did meet with us at the library, which is across the street. But then I was able to get in touch with, luckily, the neighbor directly to our south, and I met with him, and I think there were 6 other folks there yesterday. We met at his house. We, presented the plans. We talked about it a bit more. I'll summarize the concerns, and actually make sure I don't forget, because we all wrote them down together. I think concern with the use itself, obviously the 24-hour operation, I think, was brought up. The lighting, the potential drainage concerns, potential noise concerns, dumpster location. A lot of these things I think we can work through, and I think we have some solutions to how we can solve some of those items. The 24-hour operation is something that is mandatory for this to function and work and to be licensed. So I think sirens certainly is one. The idea of an emergency department, I think, is what I've heard mostly from the folks that we've spoken to. Just to give you some statistics and some information about it, right? You can't not have lights and sirens. It's something that you can't condition and make them go away. It's a state statute. The fire department, the EMS, they have to be able to keep their sirens and lights on whenever they need. You can't say, once you cross this property line, you have to turn them off. However, in our conversations with HCA, and certainly, the intention is, obviously, they know they're people too. Those drivers are people too. They know when they're residential communities. They're not doing it to be obnoxious. They do it on roadways where they need to make sure the public safety, everybody knows where they're at. When they pull onto properties, they typically take them off because they're coming to the drop-off location, they're unloading the patient. They don't need lights and sirens blaring as they're doing that. So the expectation should be that most of the time, once they come in off of Orange Boulevard, they would be turning those off. There would not be ambulances or EMS stationed at the facility. This won't be a dispatch location where they'd be sitting waiting for a call and then dispatch from there and go flying out of the property. Average wide, based on HCA data, we're talking about an average of 1.2 ambulances per day that come to these freestanding emergency departments, right? However, comparably, HCA owns the facility that's recently been opened on PGA Boulevard. It's near the Fresh Market there, kind of just west of Military. And over the entire year of 2025, they had 26 ambulances come to the property. Certainly, there are instances where if a patient gets there and they need more care and they have to go to the hospital, then an ambulance would then transport them from this facility to the hospital, but that wouldn't be under a life-threatening condition. So they wouldn't be going lights and sirens and again, screaming out of the property. So I understand the perception that this would be a problem, but we think that really the data shows that it shouldn't be. Again, I think we touched on this, the intention of why FSEDs are certainly a part of the medical system that we're seeing today. So again, the waiver request, just to touch on that, the waiver request is a function of a distance away from, basically it's from the building to the land use or the residential land use line. I'm showing you the dimensions, and it has to be 250 feet. If you're within 250 feet, it's a required type 2 waiver, whether you're in the acreage or whether you're off of Okeechobee Boulevard. If you're adjacent to residential uses and you're asking for a commercial use and you want 24 hours, you have to ask for this type 2 waiver. So the reality is the zoning district is obviously closer, but those homes are approximately 250 feet or more away from, and the one to the south, the one that says 250 is the gentleman, Billy, I presume he's here, and we met yesterday at his house. It's not the unique condition. There's certainly other freestanding emergency departments that are within the county that are adjacent to or are within that proximity of residential. So again, there's multiple examples of that occurring throughout the county on Boynton Beach, on Lantana, also on PGA. We've also heard through this process, like, do we really need it? Is it really necessary? How far? Where are the other facilities? And look, the acreage is a very large area. There is a significant population of folks who live. Basically, if you go from the Turnpike all the way out to Seminole Pratt Whitney, maybe use North Lake on the north and Southern Boulevard on the south, it is a massive geographic area with a lot of residential and very little commercial opportunities. In the acreage area, this is literally, I believe, the only remaining vacant commercial parcel of land in unincorporated county that could be developed. There are some in the Gardens. There's some in Westlake, but reality is within that corridor, this very well may be the last. So you see where our subject site is up in the kind of top left-hand corner. There is one FSCD that's located south in Westlake, but the two hospitals, and this is a Palms West facility. Palms West facility is 20-minute drive from our location. So again, they see a ton of patients who come from this part of the community who are driving 20 minutes, potentially in an emergency circumstance, to try to get to their emergency department. So if they can reach those patients before they have to get in the car, they have to drive that far, they have to be on the road network, that is a win. And so, again, this is sort of just a broader perspective of the facilities that are in that area. Traffic, we've worked through the process, as you know. Traffic was, again, this has been always anticipated to be developed at that 50,000 square feet. We've worked through that process. The access is where it will be, and I think the division is happy with that. And again, some architectural elevations of the building itself. So I'm showing you the front door. I'm actually not showing you because these are the elevations that would face the adjacent neighbors. But if you've ever been to that shopping center, it's got the rural character. It's part of being in that community. And so there's front porches. There's a variety of things. But as you can see, the drop-off areas are located and how the architecture looks facing those residential sides. We certainly have been working very closely with all of Palm Beach County staff, but there is a recommendation of approval. I have had the opportunity to speak with Ms. Hernandez, and we've talked about, some potential mitigation efforts, for those residents on our east and our west. And I'm just going to put these out here because these are, again, conversations and some commitments I made yesterday that, as far as limiting lighting, we do need, there's a condition that would need to be modified in the existing resolution that says lights have to be extinguished at 11:30. Our goal would be to modify that condition to where just the lighting around this facility would be allowed to stay on. Certainly, we would want to shield it away so that there's no light transfer off the property or near any of the adjacent homes. So we would work on that condition and make sure that they are shielded. We are open to the idea of a privacy wall that would run along that east side and along the south side to help to mitigate any of the sound, the concern of again, any impact that would be detrimental to especially those two most adjacent homes. And then additional landscaping as we can provide it to maybe fill in some gaps. I mean, I was out there yesterday. There certainly are some gaps in the landscape buffering that could be addressed as well to help provide for a little bit more privacy. So with that, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. I know, again, Brian's here. Samantha from Palms West HCA is here as well. And again, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Staff, do you want to do a report as well?
Would you like a presentation from staff?
It's,
I don't need it.
anybody from you want one from staff? No?
Okay.
I have a question, if you could. What is do you have statistics on what the common use is for these emergency rooms? Types of injuries?
As far as the types of injuries that would come in? Yeah, I mean, I think that what we expect is that, well, I might ask Samantha might be the best to answer this question.
Yeah, I know. What we would refer to as low acuity patients, so people that may come in with broken bones or, flu-like symptoms, things like that. We're not seeing trauma patients or people that would need immediate surgical intervention within an hour or two. Does that answer?
What about like serious conditions such as heart attacks or strokes or things like that? What occurs with those people?
So we would treat those patients, stabilize them, and then we actually have our own transport. Our own transportation. We have our own ambulances, and they would come and transport the patient right away to the facility once they're stabilized.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question about that. Where are these ambulances that you transport on it being housed?
They're at the hospital.
Okay, so there's nothing going to be there.
Correct.
Okay.
Questions? Brian Terry, you said that they wouldn't be transported under life-threatening conditions to the hospital. However, if something happens, say they come in with a broken arm, and it becomes an emergency, they get a fat embolus, then that transport would be, I would think, going out of there blaring with sirens.
No,
And lights to the hospital.
Well, they're already at an emergency department, right? So they will make sure that they are stabilized and able to be transported before they need to move them. Again, if they need to go have surgery, if there needs to be something done, they'll certainly be at a point where they're stabilized and transportable.
If a person comes in with a numb finger and then found out that there's stroke, they need something immediate treatment in a hospital situation. That's another thing where it would be blaring and they'd be going. I don't believe that these they come in with no sirens, but if they have to go out, then there's going to be sirens, aren't there?
We have the same capabilities, the same imaging capabilities, medications, et cetera, at this freestanding emergency room as we do at the hospital. So if someone came in with stroke and they needed a TPA immediately, which is the drug we give, we would have that available there. So they would be able to treat all the symptoms to stabilize a patient prior to taking them to the hospital.
Well, other instrumentation and emergency surgeries, you're not capable of doing that.
Correct. Then they would be transported. But, I mean, unless it was truly a trauma patient, they would not need lights and sirens to leave. And if it was a trauma patient, they would not be brought to Palms West. They would probably be brought to St. Mary's.
Okay. How do you know that it wouldn't be a dispatch? Is that going to be a condition of approval?
In the sense that you mean that this is not a location where we house dispatchers and make the dispatch decisions?
The ambulance is waiting there for a call.
So
somewhere else.
I mean, we certainly can have a condition of approval. I believe that I don't know if there's a condition of approval or if it's in the code, but there's no allowance that we're not allowed to store ambulances. Ambulances can't park there. But if you wanted a very specific condition of approval that says that no ambulances will be stored on site or parked on site except when transporting patients, something to that effect, we can work with staff to draft that. We have no problem because that's the intent.
Just one comment. I do have an issue with using one emergency department, freestanding emergency department, to make the case for the number of ambulance guaranteed to be coming per day there. like in 2025, there were 26 ambulances in this other emergency department. That's one emergency department in the one company, the HCA, that is asking for this application to be approved. That's just my comment.
Yeah, and
I
I'm
don't
happy
need
to
a
clarify.
response to that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a question for the attorney here, our attorney.
Yeah, I assume you met him.
Can you approve A and not B when their motions come? Does it make sense? It would make sense to me that I could approve motion A, but not.
I don't know how they would operate without being allowed.
I think the statute says
It's a requirement.
They cannot operate
emergency
without-
rooms have to operate 24/7. So if
Correct.
you're not in support of the waiver, then the use wouldn't move forward.
Yeah, but the use is to modify MUPD site plan and add square footage. So the modification is the issue here. It's not the entire site plan. So you would have to vote against A if you're going to vote against B. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense.
I mean, yeah, they're contingent
Okay.
upon each other. Yes. I mean, if you voted yes and then voted no for the second part, then obviously it would be an approval in name only, and they wouldn't be able to operate.
Thank you.
One last can I ask one last question? Is there something, Wendy, that could be put in there that when they're approaching the facility, that being that it's not an emergency care, that they shut their siren off? I don't think the lights are an issue because there's enough shrubbery, and if they put a wall up to cover the lights, so it just becomes a sound scenario. Is there something that they can live with that you guys can put in there to kill the sound upon approaching?
So the sound issue was raised when we were working on the code amendment, because originally in that draft we had comments about the sirens and the lights, and after discussing with our fire rescue department, they can't agree to have us add any conditions or code requirements that would limit the lighting or the sirens. So that was removed. So I would say, no, I can't add a condition that
Really?
would be contrary to the operations for a fire rescue.
So it's fire rescue that is causing the not to be able to cut off the sirens.
Right. It's a safety issue. So, yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments? Anyone? No. I just had one question. You had mentioned that you would be open to doing a privacy wall or the light transfer. I was just curious on the light transfer. How would that be reviewed if you were to do something to mitigate that?
Yeah, sure. Right. We would make sure that, first of all, we locate the lights so that the light was automatically shining away from the adjacent properties, and then we would make sure they're shielded on the backside as well, to really limit the projection of the light only towards the building itself and certainly away from any of the adjacent properties.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I add on to that really quick? So part of our conditions of approval also require 0-foot candles at the property, at the buffer line. And you'll notice in the graphic that is actually shown on there, they almost have like a double landscaping on there's a there's 69th Court, then there is the perimeter landscape buffer, there's a water management tract, and then there is a hedge with a row of trees, and then the parking. And so what we've also conditioned them to do is to continue the row of trees and hedges that is adjacent to the parking and going north, that would be along the parking on the west side. And then we've conditioned additional vegetation in the south buffer and the west buffer, including a wall that would extend on the west property line, and then from the corner of the west going east, which will almost be behind the dental office. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
Wendy, or maybe Brian, how tall is this wall? Because if it's too small, short of a wall, it's a useless wall.
I believe our condition is 6, but they could go up to 8.
Yeah, I think you need at least 8 because 6, it's almost like, especially with the burn you got there, it's almost like just standing and talking over the wall.
Right.
So they would agree to 8 feet.
I think we would, yes. Again, and we've already reached out to contacted with the Property Owners Association for the facility to kind of start that conversation with them, understanding exactly where we can locate it. The ownership of the perimeter areas is kind of strange on this one, so we would need to work with them to to get that.
And when you
in
say
there.
wall, how's the finishing? Is either precast units? I
Yeah,
assume?
most likely be
Okay.
like the column with the precast panels would be the likely decision. Again, there's a lot of existing landscaping there on the
Yeah.
outside we don't want to touch, so that would be the most sensitive way we can drive those columns in and then place
Yeah,
the
no, I
panels
agree with you.
without doing a lot of footer construction.
Madam Chair, just about this 250 feet from a residential use, there are probably other freestanding EDs that will be proposed throughout the county. So this would, I would believe, set a good example or precedent to approve other ones, and that may not, the residents might even be closer, okay? But I just want to make sure, I have to disclose this. For the attorney, I just want you to know that I am on the Board of Governors of Delray Medical Center, which is a tenant hospital. They mentioned St. Mary's, but I don't believe I have any conflict at all. And this is Delray, and this is, but so.
I imagine there's many different organizations and hospitals that will benefit from this. So you're just part of a larger
I'm glad
group.
that there's no conflict, right?
I think at this point, it's tough to say without having any advance notice. Use your best judgment. In quasi-judicial proceedings, you also have the ability to recuse yourself if you believe that's necessary for the decision to be free from bias or prejudice. I just wanted to touch on the precedent issue. This is not setting a precedent. Each site, each request is individual and reviewed on a case-by-case basis on its own merits. So just wanted to, I understand where you're coming from. I just, like, legally it doesn't actually set a specific precedent.
Yeah, I did mention example. It could be used as an example.
Sure.
Okay. Did you have a comment? Anyone else have a comment? No. We have quite a few comment cards, so
Sure. Michelle Mooney. She here. I'm just going to read these.
and they just have to state their name and address for the
Yeah.
record, and then once they start, they just hit start, and they get 3 minutes.
All right. Well, I'm supposed to call them by here. I
Oh,
think
she does not want to. She
Doesn't
doesn't
want
wish to
to-
speak.
So I
then
need to
she
read
just
that in.
wants-
So should I just go through and call whoever wants to make a
Yes.
statement?
Yeah.
So if you'd like to make it, sorry,
She wants to speak, so just call that.
I got you. Okay. Pia Scoran.
Madam Chair, just because there was quite a few people that submitted comment cards after the swearing in, might be a good idea to swear in those that haven't already, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yep. No, that's fine.
For everybody that showed up after I did the initial swearing in, if you submitted a comment card and want to speak, if you could rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Would you speak for me? I've got proof from.
That's up to the discretion of the chair when it's your turn.
When we call you, if she wants to come up, you two could stand together. I'm fine with that. And I'm sorry, are you Michelle then?
Michelle.
Okay. Sorry, you checked not to speak. So anyway, go
That's
ahead.
okay. I'm here. I just want to say I'm not 250 feet.
Sorry. State your name and address for the record. I
I'm sorry.
apologize.
Michelle Mooney, 15668 Orange Boulevard. Just to the west, east of the proposed. I didn't get any notification or anything. I didn't find out until just about a week ago about this. Nobody sent me anything, so I'm not very happy about that. But the property is zoned as it is for a reason. The people that moved out there want to move out there to have their quiet. I have my grandchildren stay with me quite often, and lights and sirens coming in at all hours of the night is not going to be fun. I don't like that. I don't want any noise or lights 24/7. You can have it, but not 24/7. Signs going up saying that we won't do that, but you've already stated that they have to have lights and sirens. But signs don't work. People don't read the signs or adhere. And so there's got to be someplace else to put it. Just because it's the only commercial spot you've got them all on one side. You can move it east a little bit. So that's my opinion. I'm right there, and I do not need more traffic, more congestion, more noise, more lights. The lights come through my house like every time a cop goes by, it lights up my house like a carnival. And the house rattles with the noise from the cars' radios. So I don't need that. And I'm sure all the people that live around there don't want it either. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Pia Scorin. I am a 36-year resident of the acreage. I'm a volunteer with the Acreage Landowners Association. My neighbors and I are not in favor of the 24/7 operations within 250 feet of residences. This does not belong in a residential area. Come on, guys. You wouldn't want to live next to it either. I want to point out...
I'm sorry, can you just state your address? I didn't hear you say
I'm
that.
sorry. 12211 Orange Grove Boulevard, West Palm Beach, Florida, 33411.
Thank you.
I want to point out to you that the definition of a medical office that this has been put under indicates that there will be no overnight stays. Well, that's true. There's not going to be any overnight stays on this as it's been proposed because it's a 24/7 thing, and that's the definition. However, that's completely inconsistent with the purpose and meaning of that restriction that you're going to have 24/7 operations. The idea of it being no overnight stays was the idea that it was not to be a 24/7 operation, period. So that's very confusing that was put under that category. Every 24/7 ER that's proposed next to residential is going to ask for a waiver, and you're going to be in this position every single time. It didn't belong in that category, I don't believe. And it is inconsistent with 24/7, the medical office. The 2007 MUPD for Seminole Orange specifies lights out at 11 p.m. It's detailed. It's a detailed MUPD for the reason that this was next to residential properties, and it was never intended to become 24/7. These restrictions have been affirmed in, I believe there was at least one other amendment to this. So there's a reason for this, and it's residents. We are very concerned about the precedent this 24/7 operation could set for the rest of the plaza, as other parts of it would want to be open 24/7 too. There's a McDonald's there. There are other things there that would want a 24/7. How do we then say, oh, you get to have it, but you don't? So it is precedent setting, and that is a concern. The mitigations being offered by the developer are great. They're talking about a wall and landscaping and shielding low lights, moving possibly the generator and the dumpster. However, that does still not make this property, and those are great. If whatever is put there should have those things. But it doesn't mitigate the fact that this is there are houses that are less than 250 feet from this development. We like HCA, and we would like them to utilize their property. We request, and we've told them that
Your time is up. I'm sorry. Your time is up. You get 3 minutes. Your time is up.
Can I just finish real quickly?
Real quick.
There are other uses for this property. We would like to request an urgent care facility, and in my opinion, based on what they just said, that what they're expecting is low acuity, flu, those kinds of things. That's not an ER. That's an urgent care, and that's what we need. We're not a low-served area. 2 miles away, Westlake has an ER. There's another ER, 24/7 ER planned in Avenir. It's not needed here. We're not underserved. Please, do not allow this to happen in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Jim, from across the property.
I'm Jim Wickline. I live on 69th Court, first house
I'm not within the 250 feet. I'm further down the street. God, I had something I was going to say. The lights, sirens at night, most of the rescue and stuff, I don't hear mentioned. I've been there for 25 years, before Walgreens and everything. The main concern is that the cars, there's another entrance that's like right in front of my house that comes off of Orange Boulevard that goes behind all that. And everybody drives down that road, you know, when they come in, because it's the first turn into the parking lot at the Walgreens. It's not off of Orange. It's the next one. Well, I get a lot of cars down my street that think it's going to Walgreens. So they're turning around in my driveway. I'm the first driveway. It's not bad during the day, but at 2 o'clock in the morning, it lights my bedroom up. Siren, or it'd be the same thing with the rescue. The rescue would take that way in because it's the shortest way in, and it goes to where the rescue is going on the back of the building. So it would just be a lot more noise than what I have now. Everything closes down, or supposed to close down at 11 o'clock. The kids hang out like at McDonald's and stuff later, but usually by 12, 1:30, or 12, 1 o'clock, they're gone. But they're over there making noise. I know they're kids. I don't complain. But that's really all I got to say. There's an ER right down the street. It's 2 miles away. I've been there 3 times myself. It's not really needed. We can use more of a, a med place, like a walk-in clinic, because now it's a 25-minute drive to any doctor. But as far as an ER, there's one 2 miles away. And it's on a 4-lane road, so you don't get blocked up with traffic. I mean, the traffic today on Orange Boulevard is a parking lot this morning. And there's no way an ambulance is getting there. Not this morning. Every street out there is blocked. Seminole Pratt's open because it's a 4-lane highway. But all them other roads this morning were blocked. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Billy from across from the property.
She's going to speak for me.
Okay, just have her state name and address, please.
My name is Lisa Johnson, and I'm speaking for Billy Merkel. He lives on 69th. What's yours?
I live right there behind all this. I'm the closest house there is.
Your address?
15742 69th Court North.
My name is Billy, and I live close to the site. I am speaking in opposition to the waiver request. The 250-foot separation requirement exists specifically to protect me from high-intensity commercial use and operating immediately next to my home. This will adversely affect me, and I ask that you oppose this. I oppose this, and I ask that you deny it today. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Lisa.
That's me.
Okay.
I need to take my glasses off. Good morning. My name is Lisa Johnson. I live at 17856 89th Place North in Loxahatchee. I am a volunteer with Acreage Landowners Association, and I am representing the ALA board today. I am speaking regarding this application. That includes a development order amendment modifying the overall MUPD site plan and type 2 waiver to allow the 24 operations within 200 foot of residential properties. I would like to focus on the consistency with adopted planning policy, particularly to the Acreage Neighborhood Plan, and also known as the A&P. The A&P is a county-adopted planning document guiding development in the acreage. It emphasizes preserving the rural residential character, limited commercial intensity, compatibility between commercial uses and nearby homes, and protection of residential quality of life. The Seminole Orange Plaza was originally approved in 2007 as a village center intended to serve the nearby residents with neighborhood-scale uses. The concept was low-intensity commercial development designed to reflect the character of the surrounding residential community. The approval contemplated limited nighttime activity with most commercial lighting off at approximately 11:30 p.m. except for basic security lighting. The project proposed today is approximately 11,000 square foot, freestanding emergency department, introducing continuous 24-hour operation intensity into an area that where homes exist less than 250 residential protected radius. The Unified Land Development Code limits non-residential operations within 250 feet of residential properties to 6 a.m. through 11 p.m. unless a waiver is granted. Importantly, the burden of proof is on the applicant to demonstrate that the granting the waiver is not adversely affects nearby residential use. The Acreage Landowners Association became involved in this application after hearing from residents throughout the surrounding areas, including homes within the 250-foot residential protection radius, as well as many nearby residents who live in close proximity to the site and have expressed concerns about the potential impacts of continuous 24-hour operation. Residents are not opposed to medical services at this location. The concern is specifically whether 24-hour operation within this protected residential district can meet the waivered standard requiring no adverse residential impact. There is already a freestanding emergency department 2.6 miles away in Westlake, and the community has heard discussion that the facility may eventually expand to a full-service hospital. Residents therefore do not believe this area meets the typical underserved services needed associated with freestanding emergency departments. Residents met with the project architect and discussed whether other medical uses within HCA system could be considered at this location, including an urgent care service such as an MD Now or outpatient services like physical therapy associated with Palms West Hospital. The Acreage Landowners Association would welcome working collaboratively with the applicant on options that remain compatible with our original 2007 Village Center approval and the character of the surrounding residential
Your time is
community. Can I finish?
Finish.
The question before the Commissioner is not whether the health care is important. The question is whether continuous 24 operations intensity within 250 foot of homes is compatible with the Acreage Neighborhood Plan, the Village Center concept approved in 2007, and the compatibility protections established in the Unified Land Development Code. For those reasons, we respectfully ask the Commission to consider whether this project itself may be acceptable, but the 24-hour waiver, so please consider 24-hour waiver within the 250-foot residential protection area may not be consistent with the AMP, ULDC, and compatibility standards. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Lisa Johnson.
That was her.
That was her. Billy Merkel. That was it? Oh, no. They filled out several of them. Enrique Lozano.
Good morning. My name is Enrique Lozano. My address is 15784 69 Court, right next to the future supposedly emergency room they're trying to build. I'm against it. First of all, I've been living there like 2.5 years already. I come from Miami, from a noise environment, to come here to a nice, quiet place. And from what I see, things are changing now, especially when they are going to build that supposedly proposed 24 emergency room hospital. The major cause of that I don't like is the noise impact. Impact is the sirens, HVAC equipment. They got to use probably heavy equipment in there. They're going to be running 24 hours a day. It's going to be noisy. Also, if it's the generators, going to be probably diesel powered. Smell, contamination. Dumpster, they got to have a dumpster there. Going to have red medical bags, which are very toxic. Who knows? With stuff, human remains, I don't know. That could smell. I don't know. They're going to take out daily. I don't know. Lights is another impact from the parking. They're going to have security lights around there. All that's impact. It's going to get glare, possibly to my windows at my house. Also, why do we need another 24 if we have one at Westlake? I've been there already once. VIP service. I love it. I went there. Has a lot of room for multiple occurrences at once. It covers the area. That's my view. I don't know what the reason why they need another one there, especially there. Plus, my main concern also is it might bring my property value down. Because that, if in the future I'm planning to sell the house, whatever, or make a loan or something, they're going to consider that and all that stuff. I mean, that's what I see. Anyway, that mall, when I got there, I saw the mall, the shopping center. Yeah, I got McDonald's and all. It's nice and everything. But it's curtailed to 12 midnight maximum. I got no problem with that. But the 24-hour thing, it's going to kill us. That area, especially there, them two, when the neighbor, the other neighbor, all of us basically. Basically, that place was made for like pharmacies, small restaurants, mom and pop business centers, things like that. So that's the part I'm really concerned about. It. I hope you guys take this serious matter of this, because it's now or never.
Thank you.
Let's read it in.
Okay.
All right. The next is Karen Burns, who wishes not to speak. She's at 13950 Tangerine Boulevard. She states that she opposes the 24/7 emergency room proposed for Seminole Orange Plaza for many reasons. 1, traffic. It is already a dangerous intersection. 2, our neighborhood plan suggests an ER at North Lake and Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. 3, there is one 2 miles away on Seminole Pratt.
Thank you. Questions, comments from council? Do you want to start? Do you have any?
I have no questions.
No?
I actually have 2 questions for the staff or for the applicant. If they could address, number 1, the concern that if this facility was operated 24/7, would the other businesses that are using the plaza seek a similar right to use their facilities 24/7, like the McDonald's, et cetera? That's one question. If you could address that.
I can't account for what the applicants would do, but they would have an ability to request a waiver. Before this application came before the board, all of those businesses could have requested a waiver. So,
If I may, Mr. Cameron?
Yes.
So the other difference is McDonald's and an FSED are not the same thing, right? These are dramatically different. So if they wanted to come before you and they could say, we have X number of McDonald's in the area and it only generates 1 per night, they wouldn't be doing it, right? Because McDonald's only runs profitability based on the low margin. We're providing the community service. So if they could show there was no impact, they could theoretically do that. But as Wendy said, they could have done that already. So this does not provide any kind of a precedent for the other users, particularly because of the unique nature of this and the recognizing the concerns of neighbors. I've done many of these. We always have these. But the reality is, statistically, there aren't a lot of ambulances. There's not a lot of traffic. We have no ability to not do 24/7 because of the statute. McDonald's can do whatever they want for whatever hours without a statutory requirement. So it does put us in a vastly different situation.
The other common concern that I heard from the neighbors was that there was an emergency room available 2 miles away. Can you address that?
So Samantha, if you wanted to get into the details, but the short version of it is, in my mind, is that, yes, there is. There's also more people going to be coming into Westlake. They're going to continue to build out. This is shorter trips. This is more immediate for the folks in the acreage. And again, we do this all the time. People don't like the change. Totally understand that. But if you're nearby, not going 2 miles, particularly if you're in that morning traffic that someone just spoke about and you're trying to get there, you're a lot better off when you're closer. So Palms West looked at this and believes that there is, both in the short and long term, going to be a need in this area. Otherwise, they wouldn't spend the money to do it and not get the patients.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
Okay, well, give me may I make a motion of development order amendment request to modify the overall MUPD site plan to add square footage, modify the uses, reconfigure parking and on-site circulation, and modifications of approval on 11.89 acres. Motion to recommend approval of items 2A.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Good.
He made a motion to approve both, well, just A right now, A. We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Two opposed.
2 opposed, okay.
Okay. Request to allow a 24-hour operation within 250 feet of residential
Can you
usage.
pull your mic closer? They can't.
Oh, sorry. No.
No way.
No, not I, especially me. Request to allow a 24-hour operation within 250 feet of a residential usage on 1.77 acres. Motion to recommend approval of item 2B.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
You need to note the one.
So there's 3 opposed, and you're opposed too, or you? Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4 opposed?
No, 3.
3. So Annette.
Do a hand count.
Yeah. Hand count on who's opposed.
Roll call.
Okay.
Yeah,
Roll
we
call.
can do a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Kennedy?
No.
Okay. Commissioner?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Caliendo?
Yes.
I'm sorry, we're doing a roll call on
The item B.
opposed or
4. Well, whatever you are. Either way, yes or no?
yes?
Yes.
No. Yes.
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
2 noes. All the rest yeses.
No, 3 no's.
3
no's.
noes. I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses today, so I'm reading.
You can get that later.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Susan Kennedy voted in opposition of item B. She voted in opposition of motion A and B. Commissioner Allison Thomas voted in support of A and B. Commissioner Sam Caliendo voted in support of A and B. Commissioner Pavlik voted in support of A and B. Commissioner Kammerer voted in support of A and B. Commissioner Vinacore voted in opposition of A and B. Commissioner Mendoza voted in support of A and B. And Commissioner Williams voted in support of A and B. And Commissioner Jones-Van voted in support of A in opposition of B.
Motion passes.
Passes.
Next up is item
And
3.
I
Oh,
guess
I'm
I could
sorry.
add, so this is a recommendation. So both of these requests move on to the Board of County Commissioners at the end of the month for the residents.
Yes, thank you. Next up is item number 3, Preston residents. I'd like to hear from the applicant, please.
Good morning, James Hackett, representing the applicant, the Preston family. This is going to be a lot simpler than the last one. The request is simply just to rezone the property. It's currently zoned RE, and they're looking to rezone to
RT, which is typical of many of the properties out there now. Square Lakes is roughly made of 160 single-family units, lots. Lots vary from 2.5 acres to about 5.5 acres. Currently on the subdivision, there are 25 single-family residents that have the RT zoning district, and there are about 55 lots that are under an acre. The subject property is 1.67 acres. The reason for the rezoning, I think, is where the concern falls, is that he's looking to subdivide the property. The property is fairly unique because it abuts 6 neighbors. It's the only property in the Square Lake subdivision that actually has 6 direct neighbors. The property to the west is 2 lots. To the south is 3 lots, and to the north is 1 lot. The Prestons are looking to subdivide the property to match and mirror the 2 properties to the west. So it'll be the 2 lots will be just under an acre. As you can see from these 2 graphics, the county's zoning map shows the properties in dark yellow that are already zoned RT, and the rest are zoned RE, as well as the current lots. There's 55 of them that are under 1 acre, including all the lots, basically, most of the lots adjacent to us and across the street. Consistent with the comprehensive plan, RT is allowed in the LR1 land use designation. The properties will be consistent with Article 3 and all the property development regs, obviously compatible. As I said, there's 55 lots existing that are under 1 acre, including most of the ones that are adjacent to us. Consistent with the development pattern, and yeah, I mean, that's basically it, very simple. I've represented a few other of the property owners, families there that have rezoned. They've rezoned for a couple different reasons, whether they wanted to subdivide, they wanted smaller setbacks to be able to put an addition on their property, a detached garage, which the Preston residents family is still thinking about doing. So they would need the rezoning regardless. So really here more to just answer any questions, concerns. As I mentioned, I think the bigger concern is that we're subdividing from 1 single family lot to 2. Sorry. And obviously, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. The applicant, Mr. Preston, is here, if you'd like to hear from him as well. But again, simple, just rezoning from RE to RT.
Okay. Did we have questions?
Question for staff.
Okay.
So, well, actually, for the applicant, can you go back to your map showing what the surrounding?
This one?
Yes. The yellow is what?
The darker yellow is already properties that are zoned RT, and the lighter yellow is the existing RE.
So your property is not contiguous with any existing RT?
It is not. That's
Thank
correct.
you. Then my question is for staff on the subdivision.
Okay. The subdivision is a secondary application. The one before you right now is for 1 unit. The concurrency that they have is for 1 unit. If they want to subdivide, it is part of the concurrent application. They have to connect to water and sewer for the level of services that are established in the comprehensive plan, as well as in Article 11, they would have to be a minimum of 1 acre each to be on well and septic. So if they move forward with a subdivision application, they would have to show concurrency that they've complied with connection to water and sewer. We do not have that yet. So at this point in time, it's just 1 unit for a rezoning.
Okay, because even the subdivision regarding, because of the underlying land use, which is 1 unit per acre, that interpretation of that it could even be subdivided into 2 units at all, even with connection to sewer and water, is not consistent with any other interpretation of.
I'll turn it over.
Please.
I'll turn that over to planning because we did have a slide that was part of our presentation to discuss that.
Did we want to go ahead and see the presentation?
Or at least the slide,
The
and
slide,
if anyone else has
Yeah,
any
just the
questions.
slide.
Yeah.
Or we can look at the sand dunes.
Yeah, so good morning, Travis Goodson with the Planning Division. So the property, the density is calculated based on the underlying land use, right? So it has the 1 unit per acre land use, but the policy in the comprehensive plan, 221-G, specifies that when you have a fractional remainder resulting from a density calculation, that if it's 0.5 or greater, you round up to the next number, and if it's less than 0.5, you round down to the lower density number. So in this case, this is a 1.67 acre property times 1 unit per acre, 1.67. The fractional remainder is greater than 0.5, so you round up to 2. So the maximum potential by the comp plan on this property is 2 units. That's the maximum. They have to meet other regulations and codes for it. I think maybe what you're thinking of is in the rural tier. The rural tier specifies that you cannot subdivide for an acreage less than your future land use designation. This is in the urban suburban tier, and that policy is not applicable here.
So then there would just be other land use regulations that would require the things like the sewer and the water, probably road and driveway and setbacks and stuff like that.
Correct. So what would happen is you can't come in and have the smallest lot size that you want. At that point, the property development regulations of the zoning code kick in and determine what the minimum frontage requirement, the minimum lot depth and lot width, and concurrency, rota widths, all those things come into play.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
This is actually Wendy. Wendy, if I remember correctly, we've had several of these we've approved in the same area, did we not? Oh, man. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So we've approved several of these before with the same regulations about utilities.
Yes.
So we're not
And
setting
this-
any precedents here.
There's no precedent. Every application stands on its
I
own.
know, I don't-
But this is a rezoning to RT, very similar to other properties in this neighborhood that we have
I remember that.
supported the rezoning. It's consistent with the land use, and they have the same requirements. Other projects have come forward to subdivide. I think there was one to the north of this, so it was 4 acres. They subdivided into 4 1-acre
Yep.
properties. That was allowed, and they met the requirements to stay on septic because they were a minimum of 1 acre each. But yes, every application that comes through, we evaluate. So
Okay.
we have
I
done
thought
them
so.
in this area.
I know. That's kind of my recommendation.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from?
I just have a comment. What's the purpose of a residential transition zone? Just basic.
Let me pull it up really quick. But it is, we have many different zoning classifications from the AR, which have many different sizes and land uses. RE gradually gets bigger, residential estate. Then the RT transitions on to the next type of residential zoning classification, which is RS, residential single family. So it's gradually making them larger in the different categories and different setbacks.
Is the RT designation tended to be like a transition zone, like a buffer from one type of zoning to another?
Yes.
See, that's the issue that I see here. That you're not transitioning from anything. It's just this property is in the center of an area that everything else is designated RE. So I don't see what the transition is from. It's not like there's a commercial area zoned right next to this property that it's going to be designated as residential transition to. Then, next to it might be the RE designation. So look, I get it. I guess the real reason it's going to be the applicant is seeking to have it rezoned is that it allows him to subdivide the property. I mean, that's, I assume, the ultimate reason for the, rezoning request. I just don't see the transition, what it's transitioning from to.
We have a number of comment cards. If there's no other comments from Zoning Commission right now? Okay.
Okay. Sue Anderson.
Good morning. My name is Sue Anderson, 8675 Square Lake Drive, Palm Beach Gardens. My husband and I have been a resident of Square Lake for over 35 years. Originally, we moved there because the properties were large. It was country-like atmosphere. It was close to town. We're at the corner of North Lake and Military Trail. Most of the homes in there are on 1 acre or more. The land was subdivided years ago. My house was built in 1966. I am on 3/4 of an acre. But since that time, the county has held 1 unit per acre because we are on wells and septic. This transition that wants to be done is going to set a dangerous precedent for our neighborhood. Anybody with over 1.5 acres of land will be allowed to round up if they rezone. And the applicant's own statement here, it's the justification statement. It says, the request is consistent with surrounding properties that have similar RT zoning. Through the years, the Square Lake property owners in adjacent subdivision have consistently rezoned from RE to RT zoning district to allow similar developments on the properties, such as detached garages or a shed. This is not a detached garage nor a shed. This gentleman wants to subdivide a property that is under 2 acres, have 1 lot at .91, 1 lot at .75. He wants to build 2 houses. He has no intentions of living there. This is strictly a developer coming in, wanting to subdivide and set a dangerous precedent for our community, then turn around and sell it. And that's what's going to happen. And if this is allowed to happen on this lot, the other people coming into the neighborhood or that already own will try and do this also. And so Square Lake will go from 161 homes or whatever he said we have to who knows how many. And those of us that bought there for a reason will be the ones that are moving out. And that's unfair. So I'm asking the county to stand up to the 1 unit per acre and not ruin our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Seabury.
Good morning. My name's Jean Seabury. I'm at 4727 Square Lake Drive. I've lived there for 65 years. My parents lived there. I grew up there. I'm the owner. My grandchildren grew up there, and also my great-grandchildren. On 1.5 acres on this beautiful lake. We have peacocks, rabbits, foxes, just absolutely beautiful. A lot of foliage. We do not have sidewalks. We do not have lights on the streets. We like the quiet, the peace, and I'm asking that you totally turn this down. The RTs that have been put in place are sheds or garages, not dividing into more houses. My granddaughter actually lives on the street, approximately within 500 feet of this place that's asking the Preston residents, asking them to divide. And she's here now with one of my great-granddaughters. So hopefully you all will turn it down. We like the area and the quiet. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Lyndon Brown.
If I may, before you start the clock, I haven't done a PowerPoint presentation in years and years, but I've got handouts if somebody could give them to you people.
Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, I am James Lyndon Brown, 8233 South Virginia Avenue, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, 33418. If you'll start with the very first page, the second page. I've lived in Square Lake for 56 years. Why did we go there? Primary reason was our children's safety. We lived in a house in North Palm Beach, 80 by 100. Kids got to the point where tricycles...
Can you speak a little closer to the mic? I'm sorry.
Tricycles, ball throwing and so forth became commonplace. We knew bicycles were at the offset. That's why we picked Square Lake. Our family has since grown. We have celebrations, anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter in particular. The kids love eggs hunting. We have 11 grandkids, 9 great-grandkids, and we try to get families together as often as we can. We actually had a wedding reception in our backyard for one of our granddaughters. Pitched the tent, hired some people, and just that. The next page is the RE to RT. I don't understand the rounding at all. I'm an engineer, I understand the mathematics, but I thought one would be a requirement for a 1 acre code thing that you guys have. It's kind of like a contractual obligation, it feels to me. Okay. I did some original arithmetic using the rounding, and Shannon was nice enough to tell me that that wasn't my prerogative because I came up with tripling the number of homes if I did the rounding at my discretion. So the next numbers show exactly, using the criteria that Shannon made clear to me, what would happen to the people in North Virginia. There are 9 homes there now. 2 lots are empty, so it could be 11. If you do the rounding technique only, you come up with 14 places. If you do the frontage allowance, which I forgot in my original arithmetic, it's 15. So it could go from 11 to 14. That's about a 25% increase. Small lots there, so I chose to do Elizabeth, South Elizabeth Avenue. Much bigger properties. Going through the same arithmetic, there are 18 dwellings there now. That could grow to 30, limited by the frontage. Beats the entire concept of why most of us moved into Square Lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jill Gavagni.
Good morning. My name is Jill Gavani, and I reside at 4960 82nd Street North, Palm Beach Gardens, 33418. We have resided in our home for 36 years. We bought and raised our kids in Square Lake for all the same reasons that have been mentioned previously. We have been here before. We were just here on the Cato residences who tried to do the same thing, to take a 1 acre lot and split it in half and build 2 homes. The Cato residences were not approved because of because of our sewer issues. We are all on septic tanks. So we have kept it at that. Now you have somebody who people love to buy into our neighborhood, hire fancy developers, and then try to change the rules. And this is why we're here time after time. They want to separate this home. There's already a detached garage on the residence. There is a home and a detached garage and a pond in front. He wants to split this and make it into 2 homes. Well, as it stands now, no one in Square Lake has sewer. No one. None of us do, and only a small fraction of us have city water. Well, we've talked to Seacoast Utilities before, and it's always been a neighborhood vote. If we wanted to have sewer, we would have to have a 51% vote of our neighborhood to bring it in. Now, Mr. Preston, who for some reason has declined to speak here, which he's right there, I would love to hear from him, he says he can get sewer. Well, I'm not really sure that's true, and that's a question for Seacoast Utilities. We were told they were never allowed to run a dead run down on any of our streets. And I'd like to know if the developer or Mr. Preston has sought right away from the other owners of the property that are to the north of him. Because if you come from the stub hub from North Lake, every homeowner along that area will have to sign off on their right of way. This also gives them the right to hook up to the sewer if they choose. Well, then aren't we back to our same vote again? 51% have to approve it? Or does Mr. Preston think he's special that he can come down and have sewer on his property so that he can subdivide it? I believe all Mr. Preston and the development company, their actions are nefarious. They don't want to live there. They want to sell it, and it's all a money grab. They want to make more money. The time to say no is now, just like we did to the Cato residences, because we're on septic tanks. I'm on a septic tank and have had well water for 36 years. No one wants to hook up more than I do. But they're not going to run a run down to my house and give me sewer and neglect everyone else. So I'm not sure that right away has been received and approved. And Mr. Preston thinks again that he's the special one to get sewer.
Thank
so
you. Your time is up.
I encourage you to vote no on this because we don't want our properties subdivided. Thank you.
Chris, I can't read your last name. 4528 Square Lake Drive.
Jonke.
Okay, Chris Jonke.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Chris Jonke. I reside at 4528 Square Lake Drive. I am also a previous resident of 8295 South Elizabeth Avenue. I've lived there when I was 15 years old, and now I'm 43, I think I am. And I'm here today to respectfully ask the board to deny the request to rezone the 1.67 acre parcel from RE to RT. Square Lake has been defined as a one home per acre estate zoning. The pattern shaped our neighborhood for decades. It used to have dirt roads. It's a special place. It's also a bird sanctuary, and the wildlife there is amazing. Our residents are amazing. It's very quiet, and it's uncharacteristic of the area. That's what makes it special. I'm a business owner. I have multiple businesses right on North Lake Boulevard. I understand development occurs, but it has to occur tactfully. Otherwise, you start encroaching on people's peace. Safety. We get a lot of traffic that cuts through the neighborhood already as it is, and it's we don't have sidewalks. There's no street lights. Adding more density to the residential is a safety issue. We found birds, owls, foxes that have been hit by cars. I mean, that's the reality of it, and adding more to that is that concerns me. I've jumped out of the way of cars zipping through there. I know that the traffic isn't the topic of discussion here, but that is a major issue and something that we really need to take into consideration. Safety, lighting, the sewer hookups. We like the well water. I just spent $12,000 on a new septic tank the other day. I mean, it's. I don't want to have to pay for hooking up to sewer either. Our neighborhood is not opposed to change or growth. It's happened on Military. It's happened on North Lake. The other blocks of houses that are zoned as RT, those are because people added a mother-in-law suite or added a garage. And it's like, that makes sense. Or even, a 2-acre lot split to one, that falls within the guidelines of what's been put together there. But we're looking at trying to change this. We're not Miami. This is a place where we don't want to be on top of each other. We need a little space. That's part of the investment that we put in. It's not a cheap neighborhood to be in either. So those kinds of things really change the respect.
Your time is up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Ashley Sotulo. These are all, they don't want to, they have nothing on them. I'll call their names. Then I'll read the ones.
Hi, I'm Ashley Sotulo. I live at 8784 North Virginia Avenue, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, 33418. I live directly across from the house. Basically what everyone's been saying, more about traffic. I grew up in the neighborhood, and I've noticed obviously in the past, maybe like 10 years, it has gotten a lot more heavy. People do, I walk with my baby and people just fly by us and I kind of wave them to slow down, but through traffic, you can't help it. But the more people, the worse for us in the sense of a community. I just want it to be safe, and I also don't want sewage. I also just bought into the neighborhood maybe 3 years ago. I've lived there my grandma lived there, my great-grandma lived there, and I love the way it is. So hopefully you don't pass it, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a number of cards here for people who check that they do not want to speak, but first of all, there's Susan Bruno. However, there's no statement. Ms. Bruno, did you want to say something? Okay.
They have no comment.
Sure.
The ones, can we just say the ones that have no comment, that they're just going to go into record? We don't need to read their names or anything, right? Yeah. Okay.
Susan Bruno doesn't wish to speak, but there's no comment.
We don't need to read their names.
All right.
Just say we have a number of cards that'll be submitted to record, right? In for the record.
We don't have to read these in?
Right, we don't have to read the ones now. There's
Okay.
somebody that was raising their hand out there if you wanted to stand up and
I put a card in and I wrote a comment. I said I didn't want to speak, but I would like to speak.
Can't hear.
No. If you'd like to come up to the podium. The rest of the cards will just be put into the record, so they will be on file, and then just state your name and address for the record.
I wasn't
please.
sworn in, so.
Oh, you weren't sworn in yet? Okay, so, and anybody else that put a card in that was not sworn in? Okay. Could you swear those folks in, please?
There's a new record for number of swearing. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Ready?
Yep,
Okay.
you may.
My name is Catherine Mulford. I live at 8315 South Bates Road, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, 33418. My parents moved into Square Lake in 1968. I wrote a letter yesterday to Shannon Webb and Wendy Hernandez. My husband's parents moved in 1962. So we've had about 60 years of involvement with Square Lake. We were married and then moved back into Square Lake together in 1996. We love it there, just like most everybody else that lives there. I just wanted to say a couple of things that I heard earlier. They were talking about the 55 lots that are under 1 acre. All of those lots were subdivided before 1966. So there's been nothing below 1 acre since then. And that's our main concern here today, is dividing the properties up into smaller and smaller pieces. And it just doesn't make sense to any of us. We live with the 1 acre rule. We're all pretty okay with that. The other thing I really, really don't understand, I was a math teacher for 47 years here in Palm Beach County, and I cannot understand how you can just round up 1.67 acres and make 2 acres of land to build 2 houses on. It doesn't make any sense to me. Let me see. The main thing is, like I said, we just don't want the lots to go under 1 acre. And as far as sewer and water go, I like the well water. I like it a lot. So some of us do, some of us don't. But anyway, all of us that are here today do not want to see this happen. So we don't want to see the properties split into smaller pieces. So thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. I believe there was someone else. Did you submit a comment card?
I did, and I said not speak, but I would like to speak. So, Hi, my name's Carol McKinley. I live at 8300 South Elizabeth Avenue. I've lived there. I'm a newcomer. I've only lived there 22 years. And I have to agree with Kathy. I can't figure out the math. So policy number 2.2.1 says that you have to round up or round down to 1 acre. You can't round up from 0.5. So I have a hard time figuring out the math. And I love the wildlife out there. All the wildlife is so cool. We have been a bird sanctuary since the 1960s, and this will impact that also. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all the comments, yes?
Yes.
Okay, that's all the comments. Comments from council? Commission?
Might be appropriate to give the applicant an opportunity to do rebuttal.
Rebuttal, okay.
Thank you. Respectfully, I just want to again reiterate that the application in front of you is not about the subdivision and the two lots. It's about the rezoning. The applicant still has, the ability to withdraw the application to subdivide if he chooses to, and would still want the RT zoning for setback reasons, and as they had mentioned, detached garage and other reasons. So he still has, still can do that. So really, this application in front of you today is for the rezoning. As far as utilities, we have met with Seacoast. We met with them on site. We've had multiple meetings with them and conversations. It is available. We can run to it. They will allow it. Wendy made a point that we have to connect, and I understand there are some internal discussions between the health department and zoning. We'd rather not connect, and the health department has indicated that we didn't have to, and I know there's some internal conversations that I haven't been a part of, and we're still waiting to kind of get a final say on that and who makes the decision, whether it's zoning, health. We're just waiting to hear. We don't know that answer yet. I didn't see Mr. Wilson here today, but Mr. Wilson from the health department came to me when he got this application in front of him and said that we were grandfathered in regardless of the subdivision, and that we didn't have to connect to water and sewer. I'm not here to argue that at all, just what I've been told. But we have met with Seacoast several times, several conversations. I actually received 2 letters that I submitted with the subdivision from Seacoast. So
I have a question on that regard. So you're saying that if you just got the RT, you're not required to do any kind of change to the sewer and the septic. But if you were to do the subdivision, you would have to, because you can't do septic on that size lot. Is that correct?
What I'm saying is there's 2 different departments are making 2 different decisions. Wendy, and I understand her take on.
I can clarify because I sent an email on this already.
I know.
In conversation with our Director of Planning, Zoning, and Building, as well as previous conversations with our Planning Division. There is language in the comprehensive plan that talks about entitlement density. The site is entitled to 1 unit. When you subdivide, you have to comply with the entitlement and the requirements of the level of service in the urban-suburban tier, which requires you to connect to water and sewer. So in order to subdivide, he would have to connect to water and sewer. In addition, Article 11, if you want to stay on well and septic and below the level of service in the urban-suburban tier, you have to have a minimum of 1 acre. Subdividing this property, 1.67 into 2, will not get you to 1 acre properties. There's no math to it. You have to have 2 acres in order to get 2 1 acre lots. So in that regard, to subdivide, he would have to connect to water and sewer, in addition to complying with the density requirements of the comprehensive plan. But I also, as a clarification, somebody brought up the Cato property. The Cato property originally came through for 3 units, and they had also asked for a rezoning in which they withdrew it. They were able to subdivide into 2 lots, and they have that approval because the lots are 1.13 acres each, and do not have to connect to the well, and they can be on water, well and septic, because they are both the two lots over 1 acre. So just to clarify, because somebody had mentioned that they were denied, they were approved as a subdivision from 1 lot to 2, and both lots met over 1 acre.
And could I just ask a follow-up question to that? And I understand what we're voting on today, but just so I have a bigger picture of it. If they were to connect to sewer and water, to that point, it has to come from somewhere. So you wouldn't be able to do that unless it actually was run through. I mean, Seacoast cannot run it to one home, so they would have to get the 51% vote to do that.
No.
Olive Bailey with Land Development. So I don't know the 51% rule. That must be, my guess would be that Seacoast says that if you're going to do the whole neighborhood, 51% of the whole neighborhood is required to connect. I think this is a different scenario. This is one person choosing to subdivide. So to meet our Article 11 requirements, they would have to get a connection to their lot. How that gets designed with Seacoast gets involved with that. They would say what needs to be looped, how long that run needs to be, and they'll take into that into consideration in their design process.
Okay, thank you.
A quick question. You had mentioned that this was obviously just a vote from RE to RT, and then mentioned this was the purposes. Could you repeat those purposes that the applicant wanted? You said something about setbacks and an additional garage or
yeah, I mean, the site right now has a single-family house that's located on the south side of the property, and there is a detached garage that's more on the north side. He still hasn't made all the decisions whether or not he wants to rebuild that detached garage closer to the house or put an addition onto the house that the RT allows for smaller setbacks, side setbacks. And that's, I know the Armstrongs and the Rebars rezoned to RT also because they needed those smaller setbacks due to where the house was located on the property. So the Prestons still have that right to do that with the RT, with this rezoning. The other reason was obviously to subdivide the property into 2.
Thank you.
Can I ask? I'm still a little puzzled with his purpose of this whole thing, because I'm scratching my head. If he's not going to subdivide it, and he can't subdivide it unless he's going to bring utilities in, what is your plan if you have to subdivide it? How would you get there? What do you have that we're all not hearing here?
I'm not sure I quite understand it. Right now, we have a DRO application in to subdivide the property. We have met with Seacoast and have the numbers on what it would take to connect. We've done our homework.
What about the 51% that it takes?
Again, I'm not aware of that as well. This is the first time I've heard of that today. Seacoast does not have that. We have met with Seacoast several occasions on site as well as in their office. We have letters from Seacoast that I provided with the DRO application to subdivide that says this is what the connection will be, this is how far, cost estimates and everything else.
Wendy, what's your understanding of from what he says, his letters that he's given you?
I haven't looked at the subdivision application lately, but they would have to show that they have a concurrency reservation for the water and sewer lines to connect to their property. If he has submitted that, I'll have to take a look at it. I'm not familiar with us having that submitted. For this application, we don't have it submitted for the concurrency request.
Okay. So
if I may, that is our remaining issue when it comes to the DRO subdivision application is the concurrency letter. We have not provided that. We have spoke to Seacoast who were willing to provide it. And again, they've given us the numbers of what that reservation will be.
Okay, so to clarify, you have not submitted your concurrency from Seacoast on your subdivision?
On the subdivision, we have not.
So right now, the only concurrency you have and the application that's before you is for 1 unit and not connecting to water and sewer because it's not subdividing.
Then what's your purpose of doing this if it's not to subdivide it?
It is to subdivide it, but again,
well, I mean,
but again, this application in front of you today is just to rezone, as Wendy said, the 1 acre, the 1.67 acre 1 unit. Once we have the rezoning, The applicant will then have the ability to subdivide it and/or if he chooses to put an addition on and meet the, reduced setbacks, he can do that as well. So we have to get through the rezoning before we can move forward with anything else.
Okay.
So
think
I guess
Commissioner
I can point
Kennedy-
out that the current zoning RE and the urban suburban tier has a minimum of 1 acre, width and frontage dimensions 125 to 200, 30% building coverage, and the setbacks include a front setback of 50 feet, side setback of 15, side street of 25, which isn't applicable on this lot, and a rear 25. The difference going to RT, the minimum lot size has to meet planning, but it's 14,000 square feet versus 1 acre. The lot dimensions are 100 versus 125. 125 for the depth versus 200. It has the same building coverage of 30%. And so the setback change. The front setback is 25 versus 50. The side is the same at 15 feet. The side corner is the same at 25 feet. And the rear is the same at 25 feet. So just for comparison on the two
No, I
different
understand.
districts.
Thank you. Commissioner Kennedy?
Yeah, I don't have a question for the applicant. I just, all right, are we done with questions? I'm sorry.
Well, go ahead, and then we'll get through.
Okay. Well, no, I was ready to move.
Oh, all right. Is there any?
Well, I just looking at the rezoning application, and it specifically says a property owner is seeking to subdivide the property into 2 lots and build
What I got.
single-family residence on the new lot. So that's part of the package that we're provided.
Correct. He is proposing, but he hasn't met concurrency for the subdivision, which is the subsequent. Yeah.
So he's shooting blanks here, basically,
Anyone else have any?
for a better
comments?
term.
I have a final comment if we're ready for a motion.
Yeah.
I think so, yep.
My comment is also, I think that the maps show the evidence that this is not consistent with a logical order and timely development pattern. I think it is an island of RT in the middle of RE.
I agree
And
with
for
you.
that reason, I'd like to move to deny item 3A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Can I just click clarification on the denial? It's on the development pattern?
On the 3, yeah. For many reasons listed here, but my main reason is that it was because it failed the orderly development process. It's not contiguous with any other RT zoning.
Not a
It's a
problem.
leapfrog development for me.
Okay.
And look at their application.
Thank you.
You can find that number if you need
Yeah,
it.
I got it. 3 development pattern standards.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Next. Thank you. Please, comments.
I will
quiet.
also clarify on this application, it's a recommendation from the board, and this is heard before the Board of County Commissioners at the end of the month for the final decision.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is Crossroads Church, item number 4. I'd like to hear from the applicant.
Good morning, Board. My name is Zachary Kepler with Insight Studio, and we are representing...
Can't hear you.
Yeah, closer.
My name is Zachary Kepler with Insight Studio. We are representing the applicant Crossbridge Church today. For those of you not aware of this site, it is located in the northwest corner of the Judge Winnickoff Road and State Road 7 intersection. It is part of...
So I'm sorry to cut. I just realized. I believe that you recused yourself from this one.
Yes.
Okay. I think it'd be appropriate if Vice Chair took over the presiding.
Okay. There's comment cards. Would somebody else fill in for that too?
Sure. Maybe Lori might want to read.
Okay. All right. Do I need to move seats or?
I think it'd probably be best to maybe sit in the audience for this one.
Sit in the audience. Got it.
But Chris, that was a quick promotion.
All set?
Oh, you want me to go over there?
You can sit there. I think we can all sit.
The box.
Fair enough. He doesn't have. Okay. You can continue.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, the subject site is a part of an overall PUD that was approved in the mid-'80s. Formerly known as Boca Court, it is now known as Boca Springs PUD. It was originally dedicated as a 5-acre civic site, and from the original point of construction has always been a church site. Just to zoom in of the existing conditions, right now there are 5 standalone buildings on the property and a mixture of paved and grass parking spaces with complete site circulation and 2 access points on Judge Winnickoff Road. For our application request, we are here for a DOA as well as 2 conditional uses. The DOA is to modify the approved master plan as well as add square footage to the site and add the 2 new uses as well as modify the 2 access points. And as far as the Class A conditional use request, as I mentioned, there are 2. One is for a private school use of 125 students, that would be K through 5, and the general daycare would be for 120 students. So total intensity of 245 children. Just for reference, there are nearby schools in the area that I would like to point out. There is the Slam Boca High School, which is nearest to the site. This is a charter high school. And there is Coral Sunset, which is a public elementary school. And we have also met with the nearby HOA, the Boca Springs HOA, on 2 separate occasions to discuss this project. Just for reference, this is the approved site plan. It's currently on file with the county. The most recent amendment to it was a ZZR application in 2015. And then this is the current proposed site plan that was certified with this application. On the next slide, I'll get into more details on the site layout changes. So starting with the building, part of the request is obviously an increase in square footage. And part of that is joining all of the existing structures together to create one big continuous structure. There will be some additions to some of the existing buildings, and in general, there's an overall renovation to just update the looks and architectural design. In addition to the building changes, there will be some modifications to the grass parking along the north and the west sides of the property to accommodate for the car loop for the daycare and private school use. And there is one modification to the east access, which currently functions as a 2-way ingress-egress. That will now be restricted to exit only, and I will cover right-of-way improvements on a separate slide. So, as I discussed with the architectural vision here, is to create one large uniform structure rather than the 5 that you can see today that are mixtures of architectural design as they've been built over the years. So the current plans that Leo Adalia has put together creates that uniform and flowing design that will upgrade the existing structures there and just give a general theme to the site. Just to briefly touch on the proposed floor plan layout for the buildings, the place of worship use will remain over on the east side of the property, and then daycare and private school uses will be on the west side generally. As for the right-of-way improvements, this was one of the big topics with this application. We've been working with county staff for about a year now on this, and the big departments we've been dealing with have been traffic, zoning, and land development to make sure that everything is compliant and we are doing what we can to make this project work efficiently. So with that, there are right-of-way improvements happening on Judge Winnickoff Road right in front of the site. We have starting from westbound traffic, we have a right turn lane extension into the property, into what will be the main access, which is the west access. In addition to that, there's also going to be a turn lane extension to make the U-turn motion back towards the State Road 7 intersection. This is an existing left turn lane that will be extended, whereas the turn lane into the site will be somewhat of a new addition. And then heading eastbound onto State Road 7, there are a couple things going on. So the far left turn lane will be extended. And then in addition to that, there is a fire station on the south side of Judge Winnicott Road. This has the do not block striping in the intersection, but as it stands today, that is all open asphalt, allowing anyone to make a U-turn motion or cross over the intersection, which was a concern raised by the county. And we have proposed to do a mountable median, which will allow for emergency service access to cross over into the westbound travel lanes while preventing, standard vehicles from making that turn motion. As a preliminary circulation plan for the pickup and drop off functions of the site, parents will enter in from the west access and will circulate through the site in a clockwise motion. And once inside the site, it will turn into a dual drop-off pickup lane to maximize stacking internal to the site. And the drop-off point is at the central north point of the structure today, somewhat middle of the property. And with this design, we have also expanded the paved drive aisle and eliminated some of the grass parking to accommodate for 20 feet of free access for emergency service vehicles to make a full circulation around the site during pickup and drop-off times. Just to quickly touch on traffic volumes. So as it stands today, the site is only a place of worship use, and peak hour trips come in at 11 trips in the morning with 74 trips in the afternoons. With the addition of the daycare and private school uses, we would be looking at full build-out peak hour trips of 264 trips in the morning and 234 in the afternoons. And one thing I would like to make clear with these numbers is that this is the full build-out condition. So the way the church would like to roll this out is a phased development that happens over the next couple of years with an undetermined full build-out timeline at this point, but we would be looking at early 2030s. The church would like to start by incorporating the daycare use in, and then as that grows, they would move on to starting to incorporate that private school use. So the numbers that I show on this slide, that 264 and 234 in the PM, those are full build conditions that won't be seen on the property for a number of years. And just to make it clear, this the traffic study has been reviewed and approved by the county, and it is our traffic engineers and the county's traffic engineers' opinion that the improvements that we're proposing will allow the site to function properly while minimizing impacts to the surrounding community. And that being said, we have a recommendation of approval from staff on this project. And that's it for me.
All right, is staff, go ahead. Do you want to?
We could do disclosures.
I guess we'll start with Angela.
None.
I had a conversation with Brian Terry.
None.
None.
I spoke with Brian Terry.
None.
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 Okay. Now I guess we go to the staff.
I don't think. Are we going to do a presentation?
What's it?
Turn it over to Jerome Small for a presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jerome Small with the Zoning Division. This is Crossbridge Church. The subject property is located on the northwest corner of Judge Winnicott Road. Thank you. And State Road 7. The property has a medium residential MR5 flu designation. and a PUD, Planned Unit Development Zoning District. The total acreage for the site is 88.3 acres. The applicant is requesting a development order amendment to modify the overall PUD master plan, specifically the civic pod, to add square footage and uses and modify the access points and conditions of approval on 5 acres. A Class A conditional use request is also proposed to allow a private school in a civic pod of a PUD on 5 acres. And there is also an additional Class A conditional use to allow a general daycare on 5 acres. The preliminary site plan indicates one proposed building with 65,616 square feet. The modification will reduce the place of worship seat count from 647 seats to 457 seats. The other site elements include an outdoor play area, a landscape buffers, and 164 parking spaces. Access to the site is from Judge Winnicott Road, and the applicant demonstrated satisfaction on all standards as indicated in the staff report. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to the conditions of approval as indicated in Exhibit C, and the amended conditions as indicated on the add delete. This concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for the staff or the applicant?
We have any cards?
No, just public card.
Okay, so we'll go to the public comments.
We have, okay.
Well, first of all, is there anybody here who is putting a card to speak?
One, right here. Do you wish to speak? Jose Rodriguez, you didn't say if you wished to speak. No? Okay, that's fine. And the second card I have is from Marcia Harbers, and she opposes the project but does not wish to speak, but has submitted comments right here that we'll accept, and also she has sent them via email to Jerome Small, senior site planner. That's all.
Okay, I guess
Motion?
there's no need for rebuttal because there's no presentation. So, yes, I think there are 3 motions that are necessary. Is that right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, well, Mr. Chair, may I make a a motion? The redevelopment order amendment request is to modify the overall PUD master plan, specifically the civil pod, to add square footage and to uses and modifications, the access points and conditions of approval of 83.7 acres. Motion to recommend approval of item 4A.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay.
Any opposed? All right.
A Class A conditional use request to allow private school in a civil pod of PUD on 5 acres. The motion is to recommend approval of item 4B.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Additionally, the Class A conditional use request to allow a general daycare in a civil pod of a PUD on 5 acres. Motion is to recommend approval of item 4C.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So it passes, all 3 motions.
Yes. Where is Sherry? Oh.
Okay. So while Sherry comes back up, I will introduce item number 5. Item number 5 is a modification to our Unified Land Development Code, specifically Article 5 for workforce housing. This was a board-directed amendment to the code, so I can turn it over to Maria Bello, who will go over what staff is doing for board direction.
Good morning. As Wendy indicated, I'm Maria Bello with the Planning Division and bringing to you this morning a proposed change to the Workforce Housing Code in Article 5 of the Unified Land Development Code. I know most of you are familiar with the workforce housing program of the county, but just again, as for context, the workforce housing program applies to all residential projects of 10 units or more in the unincorporated urban suburban tier of the county. And those projects that are subject to the workforce program then have a workforce housing obligation. There is a minimum obligation that's required, and then an additional obligation if the developer chooses to use the density bonus that is available with the workforce program. The workforce obligation can be met through units that are provided on-site as part of a project, or the units can be provided off-site, or the obligation can be cashed out. When units are provided as part of, actually physically delivered, part of a project or off-site, those units cannot be subject to other restrictions, meaning, for example, if a project receives funding from, say, a state program to build units, the same unit that is restricted by that funding cannot be used to meet the workforce obligation of the county's program. The reason is obvious, that we don't want to double count units. The county is offering density bonuses and wants something discrete in exchange for that bonus and the use of the workforce program. This being a program that's been up and running for 20 years now, as you can imagine, we periodically take issues and items to the board to consider modifications to the program. And that's what we did on December 10th. A number of topics were presented to the board for their consideration, and the item before you is one of those items. This has to do with a situation that nonprofit developers often run into when they are developing projects with that type of outside funding. The nonprofits typically end up doing projects that are 100% restricted, and so they do not end up having a unit or units that are unrestricted that can be used then to meet their workforce obligation. So this was a request from that portion of the industry asking for the ability to use a unit that is restricted at a workforce level with requirements that are equal to or exceeding county requirements to meet the county's workforce obligation. The board considered this and gave staff direction to come back with a modification to the code for that purpose. So, excuse me, the specific modification is one which would apply only to projects that are for sale and only to projects that are 100% restricted as a result of this structure, the funding, or, for example, a community land trust, land structure, that kind of thing. And to show you, that is now going to be, would be the third exception that the board will have created in the workforce program. The other two stem from trying to encourage the use of the exchange program that was introduced in 2019, where one builder can pay another builder to take on the obligation for their project. And the second one being an exception to allow sometimes local governments will have down payment assistance funds that can be made available to purchasers of for sale workforce units, and we want the ability to allow the municipal funds to be used, and in doing so conserve the county's funds for additional down payment assistance. So this would be the third one of those. This is scheduled for first reading and adoption in March of 2026, and on December 10th, the board also discussed other potential changes to the workforce program having to do with flexible development regulations. Those items would be coming to the board later on. They're not going to be at the same date as this particular item. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. It's more just curiosity. Do you know how many workforce housing projects we have put into the market since this has been established?
We have about 25 rental projects that account for a little over 1,500 rental units, and there have been perhaps 20 for sale projects that have incorporated workforce units as well.
And then on the builder exchange, what is that dollar value?
It is equivalent to the in lieu fee that the developer would have to pay.
And does that vary based on?
That
It's
is
not a set amount.
based on the, I'm thinking it's, I believe it's based on the, I'm sorry, I didn't bring my materials with me, on the median value of, oh, no, that's TDRs. No, okay. It's based on formula based on income. I can provide it to you. It's in the code. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
That's fine. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions? No?
I do have a question. Regarding this project that you have out and everybody talks about, do you have or do we as a citizen, as a county, an office or a person or department who control that exists, that really are working, that you give the opportunity of developers for a certain percentage, and then is that really exists outside that you can say, yes, we have three here, and people and are controlled like
So-
I just want to know that is
Sure. How do we know the units actually come about? Okay. The for sale units are required as a condition of approval for the project, and those will be handled by the county's Housing and Economic Development. They actually certify the buyers as eligible and set the prices for those units, and those units then are reported on annually by the owners for the 15-year affordability period. On the rental side, those 1,500 and some units are monitored by the Planning Division, and we have in our database every single one of those units with information on the reported information by the property manager on the incomes of the individuals and on the rents charged to ensure that they are in compliance with the requirements of the program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you like a motion?
You want
Would you like a motion? I'll motion to recommend approval of the proposed ULDC revision. Great job. And Maria Bello, she's great.
No.
And you could put that in the motion. No. Leave that out of the motion.
Do it. Second.
And B, the second zoning, B, it's actually, we're going to add this to the one motion, correct? That's the way it's written here.
No.
And to the zoning commission. And B, the zoning commission serving as the Land Development Regulation Commission recommends that the proposed ULDC revision is found to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So normally we would do two separate motions, correct?
We do, and it's an A and a B on the agenda.
Yeah, it says A and, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's two
we want to
separate.
take the first one, to recommend approval of the proposed ULDC revision. That's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. The zoning, and B, the zoning commission serving as the Land Development Regulation Commission recommends that pursuant to Florida Statute 163.3194, recommends that the proposed ULDC revision is found to be consistent with the comprehensive plan.
second?
All right, I have a motion, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. All right, any comments?
I have some comments. So I'm going to jump in and thank Scott Stone as our assistant county attorney that oversees you as our zoning commission and has been monumental for the zoning division and assisting. He will be leaving us on to new adventures to the south. So we want to wish him the best of luck and that we're going to miss him dearly.
You must be going to Boca.
Outside of the county, don't worry.
Oh, okay.
I thank you, Wendy. I really appreciate that. I did want to just say, as it happens, I've actually worked with like half of you on various boards over the past 7 years, and this board, particularly the makeup of it, I've found to be very respectful and thoughtful and cooperative, and I really appreciate that. It makes my job a lot easier. You don't get all defensive when I say something that you don't like to hear. And I've really enjoyed working with Wendy. She's an amazing director. Worked her way up, and this is where she's meant to be. And the county's lucky to have them.
I'll second that.
And the whole zoning division is great. So it's been a fun ride, and I appreciate everything that staff and the zoning commission and everybody else have treated me to over the years. So thank you.
Thank you. You've helped keep us straight, and we appreciate that.
You've done a great job. Great job.
Any other comments? No?
Who's coming on board to replace him?
Is she right? Is
Oh.
that you? No? Is that you? No? Okay.
At least in the interim, Darren, who you're all or most of you are probably already familiar with, should be seamless, and then we'll see what the future brings.
All right. Thank you. Excellent. Looking for a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.